One of the athletes on this list got a dime dropped on him by another games athlete on the list, and that was cool. Yo! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first inaugural CrossFit Games 2024 season, Natty or Not, as decided by you, the viewer, the listener, however you're watching this video. Doesn't matter! I asked 4 questions on my Instagram stories the other day. Those accrued almost 60,000 views. They got almost 2,000 responses, and actually more than that, but I'm gonna tell you why it's not quite 2,000. But the questions were, who are the men and women most likely to have used performance-enhancing drugs? And then who are the least likely men and women to have used performance-enhancing drugs? As I was going through each and every single one of those and tallying them in my little spreadsheets and creating my little pie charts, I got some stuff and some thoughts that I want to go through that I think I'm going to have to do right away. Number 1, it's got to be a 2024 CrossFit Games athlete.
No one will remember your name.
So for those of you who are like, Dan Bailey, it was Dan Bailey. Last time I checked, Dan Bailey isn't going to the CrossFit Games in 2024. So no, you're not going to see Dan Bailey on this list. If you're like, where's so-and-so that I put on? It's like, well, probably because Sam Dancer isn't at the 2024 CrossFit Games. And I guess on that note, no, I'm not doing Masters either. This is for the 80 athletes, the individual men and women who are going to be going to California. Sorry, not California, Texas. Idiot. Number 2, there are a lot of you guys who put in freaking 2 responses.
I can't do it.
Who is the most likely male to have used performance-enhancing drugs? And you have 3 answers. I chose the first person that you wrote because if I were to go inside your brain and you give 3 responses, the first person that you typed into your little cellular device is probably the first person that you think of, making it the most likely candidate. So if you put in multiple responses and you're thinking, whoa, where are my other people? I chose the first one you wrote down. You get 1 answer. Next thing I noticed, what are the men doing with the women and the women doing with the men? I don't know if it was supposed to be funny. I don't know if you misread something. I don't know if you got excited and you just put in the first response that came to your head, whether or not it was a man or a woman. And the only thing that would have been funny is when I saw Victor Hoffer in on the women's side. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, go watch every other video that I've ever put out.
I don't want to hear your excuses.
Words matter, and we're going to get back to words mattering once we do get to the men who are most likely used, but we are going to start with the least likely men to have used. And the first thing I want to show you is this pie chart. This pie chart means one thing. See this big 32% blue thing? I asked all of you guys, which man was the least likely to have used performance-enhancing drugs? There was no prompts, there was nothing else.
Nothing!
You guys went into your brains and spat out an answer. And the answer to that you're gonna find out as we go up the list from 10 to 1. 10th least likely is Roman Krenikov, getting 2% of the votes. These numbers are gonna get completely wacky once we get to the later slides as well, but we've also got Ricky Garrard coming in with 11 votes. Saxon Panchik with 15 votes, and if you ask me, I think Saxon deserves to be a little bit higher on this list. There's no way I think that dude's ever touched anything outside of a glass of milk, because there's freaking hormones in the glasses of milk, aren't there? Unless you get the raw milk, and then who knows what's in raw milk. Government won't let you drink it for whatever reason. Dallin Pepper's got 17 votes. Cole Sager's got 20 votes. I think that that's about right. I think they're rather deserving to be in that position. People are looking at Cole Sager and they're like, oh my god, Norwood at 8! I don't even know if that's a real thing, but he's been bald longer than The Rock. You think? Next up, we got Travis Mayer, 22 of the votes, and James Sprague with 24 of the votes. I actually put on my Instagram story that one of my favorite responses was, obviously the least likely to have ever used is Travis Mayer, other than the one time that he cleaned 400 pounds. It was a very contradicting, and there was a little bit of depth to that response. It's like, do they even realize that they said what they said? Nonetheless, we have Travis Mayer as one of the most highly received vote getters and the least likely to have used performance-enhancing drugs. We also have Justin Medeiros, 52 votes and 10% of the 486 total respondents in the least likely men's side. I made a video on how I don't believe that he has ever or will or did use performance-enhancing drugs. I also said in an Instagram post recently that I think that he is the most likely to win the 2024 CrossFit Games. Right above Justin, we got Brent Fikowski, 71 votes and 14% of them in totality. So when you looked at that pie chart, that big green sliver, that was all Brent. Coming in at number 1 with a grand total of 157 votes, 1/3 of the pie chart is none other than Uncle Pat. Yeah, that's right. You're never gonna look at your dad, you're never gonna look at your uncle, your grandpa, and assume anything other than them. It's sheerly the name Uncle Pat that led to this. Don't look at the thinning hair. Don't look at the lats that you look like they could feed a family of 4 for an entire month. Patrick Vellner has been crowned by you guys as the least likely male to have used performance-enhancing drugs this year. Congratulations to Patrick Vellner. I don't know whether or not you should take that as an insult. The people love you. I'm a fan too. Let's move on over to the women's side. We're gonna start off with the pie chart. And would you look at that? 46%. Big blue chunk, least likely woman to have used performance-enhancing drugs. Go ahead and put your guesses in the comment section as to who you think that is. And while you're at it, you might as well click this freaking subscribe button, because you have no idea how long and how how bad my eyes are is I did this for freaking 3-4 hours, just typing names into a spreadsheet. Somewhere out there, Michael Halpin or Barclay Dale are thinking, "Hey, you stupid idiot, there's a way to pull data." And I just sat here like a dumb butt, clicking numbers into Excel sheets. So you should subscribe to my YouTube channel because this is the best content that you will ever see ever.
Obviously.
And just like the men, we're gonna go from the 10 spot on the women's side. Gabby Nagala, you get 7 votes. 1.5% of those go to you. And right above you, you've got Emily Rolfe. 2 individuals that I think are deserving in the top 10 here. Then we've got Shelby Neal, who was beaten out by Tia Claire Toomey. And that makes me take pause. Should Shelby be insulted? Should Tia be insulted? But either way, I do like to see Shelby on this list. Remember, I told you, it was 1 response. You could say whatever you wanted. And 11 people chose Shelby Neal. And 16 chose Tia right above her. Then you got 25. And hey, this might be the only thing that Laura Horvath beats Tia in this year. Laura Horvath's going to go ahead and see the 2024 inaugural Natty or Not as presented by you guys, the viewer on Andrew HillerFit's channel, and she's going to see that, wow, I beat Tia Toomey by 9 votes!
He's absolutely right.
Thanks, guys. I will take my reward. I am going to finish above Tia Toomey on this. And in 5th place, right above Laura Horvath, is Alexis Raptis. 28 votes, 5.7% of them. Daniel Brandon's right above her. Emma Lawson's right above her. 48 votes for you, Ariel Lowen, coming in just shy of 10% of the total overall vote. It's cool to see, and maybe it doesn't make all that much sense that she kind of came out of nowhere the year she finished the Granite Games after being a so-so athlete, and all of a sudden she sets the world on fire year after year after year. She's older than ever, she's fitter than ever, but yet she is still finishing second on my list. None of you guys think that that's a suspect? I don't either. No, not me. I don't think it's suspect. What's that big blue chunk? Surprising to some, maybe not surprising to others. No other than Haley Adams with 46% of the total vote and accruing 227 total of them of the 489 of you who chimed in on this women's list. Haley Adams, you are the Patrick Vellner of the least likely CrossFit Games athletes to have used performance-enhancing drugs in the 2024 season. Congratulations to you. Next time I see you, I will give you 2 your respective medals. Most natural athlete medals. Now the moment that you've all been waiting for, we will go to the women first. The most interesting thing about this is with those last 2 lists that I just talked about, for the least likely men, there were 34 total men listed of the 40 in the field. So if you made the CrossFit Games, somebody threw your name into the bucket, which is kind of cool for the most part. And it looks like 6 of you guys are left out. I didn't look into who those 6 were, but if you're watching this and you weren't included on the least likely for the men and the women, because there were 34 men and there were 33 women included, 6 men were left out and 7 women were left out. You gotta stir the pot a little bit. You gotta make your name known. You gotta do something. Make a sex tape or something. I don't know. Get your name out there.
That's it.
Somebody will put you on the list because they saw you naked.
It's not too small, it's too thin.
And the reason I'm telling you all of this is because while there were 30 in the low 30s for those 2 lists, when it comes to the women's list here, there were 40 less votes, 442 in total, where the other ones are about 480 apiece. But here, there are only 17 women listed. So about half. So when I tell you the top 10 as I'm about to do, things get a little bit wonky, and here's the pie chart. And now you're starting to get a little bit of a picture. And just like before, maybe you can guess who these giant blue and green circles are. Chunks, pie, slices of the pie. Coming in at number 10 is Laura Horvath. She won the CrossFit Games last year. People think that she is natural as peanut butter? I don't know. Cadoots. And number 9 coming in with 4 votes where Laura had 3 is Haley Adams. Fresh off of her victory as the most likely to have never used a performance-enhancing drug, she is now also number 9 on the most likely to have used a performance-enhancing drug. And maybe it's because of this picture where she looks shredded. Best conditioning of her life, in my opinion. Above her, we've got Brooke Wells with 4 votes. I would have figured that Brooke would have gotten a couple of extra votes here because she went from finishing, well, the snatch finished her. And then she finished 3rd or 4th or 5th the next year, and then she wrote a book about it. Read the book, doesn't mention anything about performance-enhancing drugs, but I would have figured more people would have speculated and given her, cast her a vote so she would have gotten more than 4, but all she got was 4. Above her, we've got Alex Kazan. I made a video on Alex Kazan saying that I believed she was natural, and I thought that she would have also gotten more than 7 votes, most likely to have used, because look at her! She looks freaking great! This is insulting to Alex Kazan only getting 7 votes. Alex, whatever you're doing, you gotta do more. More! You tied with Abigail Domit! And she looks great too. Like, way better than she used to. And she just won the West Coast semifinal. And I would be insulted if I were Domit as well. Gazan and Domit need to go on a rampage together. I don't know what that looks like, but they can coordinate that on their own time. Gracie Walton, 9 votes. Now, this is more like what I'm talking about. Why? Because she also kind of came out of nowhere. And when these people like pop out of the freaking ground like the cicadas in Chicago, like, where'd you come from? You're not real. Danny Spiegel with 18 votes. Made a video how I thought that she was natural. She's just a freak. She's kind of built to do this, and she's not built to do other things. I would put Gracie, Domit, Gazan, and Wells all above Spiegel, but that's just me. Number 4, we got Emma Tall with 33 votes. I don't understand this one at all. I mean, it's Emma Tall. See what I did there? Dr. Seuss. But she is a really good athlete, and again, people gave you 33 votes out of the blue. And your 33 votes, Emma Tall, should look even better. And all the other things that I mentioned make a whole lot of sense once you get to the number 2 seed. And that's Adriana Pinheiro. Remember, she qualified as a 40-year-old woman. She looks like this in the freaking open division, not as a masters athlete. She's going to the CrossFit Games, so she fits the list. 151 votes, 34% of this freaking chart, the green slice of the pie, very well deserving. And then it's like, well, I understand why people would vote for her as the most likely woman over, I don't know, Brooke Wells. Makes a whole lot of sense to me. Actually, if you ask me, the number 1 recipient should probably be number 2 to Miss Pinheiro, and that's Tia Claire Toomey, or 196, 44% of the overall vote. I have no idea why anybody would put Tia at the top of this list over Pinheiro. I might have an idea. I might have an idea. Isn't data fun? Isn't it cool to see how just like everybody can vote for a couple of people and then all of a sudden no one else gets any votes? But remember, if you get any votes at all, it's cool to see that somebody out there was thinking about you enough to write your name into a little database and send it over to your favorite YouTuber. Now, when I was telling you what I was thinking as I was putting all these things together, I told you I would bring it back up before we talked about the men, and that is the way that I wrote these questions. I wrote, the 2024 CrossFit Games athlete most likely to have used performance-enhancing drugs. And a lot of these people are like, is this a trick question? It was also the first question, so I don't think many people knew what I was doing here. I want to get this big list, I want to make this cool video, but people thought I was trying to trick them, and they're like, well, dude, and then you see this chart, and half of the votes went to one individual. I'm not going to tell you who that is until we get to the end of the little list, and I'm going to start with the number 10 athlete, but just like I've been saying, if I write it like that, and people are that aware that there's a clear answer to this question, and you're getting a vote instead of this individual, whoa, just whoa. Dallin Pepper, you got 10 of them. Luke Parker, you have 16 of the votes. I saw Dallin on the least likely to have used. I didn't see Luke on the least likely to have used list. I don't blame him at all for putting either of these people on here. And remember, the ultimate compliment is to be accused of having used a performance-enhancing drug. And I saw Luke at CrossFit Mayhem, and he's got some muscles on him. I don't know what he looked like before, but he looks like a freak now. And Dallin's just a freak. He should be strong for how big he is. Justin Medeiros tied Luke Parker with 16. Chandler Smith has 19. Chandler Smith is a games athlete. He is a team games athlete. And all of a sudden I realized I'm not playing by my own rules. I said somewhere earlier in the video that it was 80, but there were so many people who voted for Chandler, and he is a games athlete. He has been a games athlete, and it's my list, and I can do whatever I want with my list, except for include the masters athletes. No way, Jose. Not on my list. Justin, I tried to help you out, buddy, but like I said, look at this, be like, yes! I totally leaned out from last year. No one's calling me pudgy this year. Chandler, just send everybody that picture of your dad again and be like, I got it from my dad. Jack Rosema, the greatest response in the history of Instagram responses recently, where he goes, trust me, bro. I did all the snatches on the round of 8 on my 205 bar. He's gonna respond to this one going, trust me, bro. These people are wrong. A wink. Should wink with my half-closed eye. Jeff Adler in 5. Yeah, that makes sense. If you win the CrossFit Games, you should get a good number of votes. When you look at that, you should get a good number of votes. When you look through someone's soul like this and you think that you're a freaking psychopath, Jack Nicklaus in The Shining, you should get a good number of votes. Noah Olson, the teammate of Chandler Smith with 46 of them. And this is because he's just wider than a house. He did GOMAD at Guido Trinidad in 2016 or whatever. And people don't forget about the GOMAD diet. Gallon of milk a day keeps the Noah Olson at bay. Roman Krennikov. It's just because you're Russian, dude. There's nothing you can do about it. You fight Jeff Adler, you fight Dallin Pepper. I don't know if you fought Dallin Pepper, but it's this whole Canada versus Russia versus America thing, and now everyone's like, yep, that dude. He's the most likely to have used performance enhancing. The Russians always do that stuff. They're Russia. But again, you're a freak. People are just calling you a freak. Guy Malheiros, welcome back to the CrossFit Games. You're on my list at number 2.
Oh, well.
And then number 1, 213 votes of the 537 that the men got right here. 50% overall goes to none other than the men who actually tested positive in the 2017 year, and that is Ricky Garrard. So when I write something like, who is the most likely to have used, everyone's like, it's a trick question, he tested positive. I'm like, no! But remember, everyone else, like the Gees, the Romans, the Noahs, the Jeffs, you guys got votes over somebody who legitimately tested positive. At this point, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna throw on the screen the entirety of the list so you can see everybody that got some votes. A lot of people got 1 on the most likely to have used, and you look at this list, and the ones that kind of popped out at me on the men's side to most likely have used were the Bruno Marins. Just like Roman in Russia, when you're in South America, people think that you're using performance-enhancing drugs. One of the athletes on this list got a dime dropped on him by another games athlete on the list, and that was cool. I said I wouldn't cite my sources, I said I wouldn't name names, but I also have another team athlete on there. I'm just realizing in Phil Muscarella, that dude looks like a freak. Sam Quant got nowhere near as many votes as I thought that he should have. He goes up and down and around the horn, and he gets 1 vote, and it's like, oh, well, I guess you don't look or perform or have as many circular performances as I thought you did. It's just me. Oh well. On the women's side, when we look at the entirety of the list, we've got somebody on there from the team side as well, Jessie Smith. Yeah, she looks great too. She belongs on this list. If you look great and you're not on the list, it's like you probably just don't leave your house ever. No one knows who you are. Amy Kringle, 1 vote. She had a standout performance this year. She deserves way more votes, but again, remember that the votes were really sucked up by the top 2 recipients on this list. But I'd give Amy Kringle at least 5 votes if I could, which I can't. I didn't vote at all. Go to the women's least likely. Here is everybody that's least likely to have used. I don't know how Pinheiro got votes on here, but I feel like people are just messing with me at that point. We also got Tia Toomey with 16 votes. Crazy world. Crazy world. Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Daisy McDonald, Lexi Neely, Chloe Govan David, Kyra Milligan, Gracie Walton, Claudia Gluck. Then we go on over to the men's side. Oh, Luke Parker is here on the least likely to have used. We also got an Enola Kai. We got Ryan Potgitter. I don't know Ryan Potgitter, but I do go actually even check to make sure he did qualify for the games. I never heard of this guy, and now he's here. Colin Bossard, Bouchard, which one was it again? Good boy Henrik Happalainen, Chris Ibarra, who I actually think was on the to be using side as well. Yeah, you see people on both sides. See Austin Hatfield on both sides. Everybody's on both sides. And that's the way the world works, guys. Everyone wants to throw temper tantrums and say, stop saying this about me, stop saying that about me. Everyone's gonna say something about everybody. It's how do you want to respond to this? So remember, if you're an athlete and you're watching this video, which I can't imagine that there would be an athlete out there that couldn't help themselves but think, oh, did I make the list this year? The first year? What? They think I'm natural?
Is that what you think? You think?
Well, good. Flying under the radar, flying solo. Nobody suspects a thing. Oh, they think I'm using performance-enhancing drugs. Yes! Because there's nothing worse in life than being the same as everybody else. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for participating in my poll. As I said somewhere in the middle of the video, subscribe to my freaking YouTube channel. That's all I have to say about that. Andrew Hiller, out.
Please smash that like button, no one touches there now.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. No, what are you waiting for?